Okay, people. Um, let's see. Where are you guys? Okay. Here we are live on air and waiting for you guys to join me. I know, Peggy, you're on here somewhere. Let's see if I can reach you. Okay. Hopefully I'll figure this out. I'm not really sure why nobody's getting on this call. Maybe that's why it's difficult. Let's see. All right. I think Peggy's going to join me, so I'm just going to wait for her to get on the call, and then we'll go ahead and start. Okay, so it looks like somebody's watching, but I'm not sure if you're actually able to hear me. So if you could just put your questions in the box to the right. See. Sorry, people, if you're watching. Hopefully we'll get over this technical difficulty. If you have a question, go ahead and put it in the box. This is Newbie Wednesdays, REI Newbie Wednesdays. Just information about wholesaling and flipping with real estate investors. Today we're going to talk about to flip or not to flip, and we're going to just go through a real case study. It's actually going on right now, a deal that I found, and we actually rehabbed and worked on. So hopefully I keep hearing these clicks. Okay, great. And so it looks like Alexander can hear me, but I don't see him on the call. So let me see how people can join me. I don't know how that works. Okay. Great. Okay, Alexander, I'm so glad you could hear me. I'm just waiting for a couple of other people to join. So I think I guess if you were on the linked, if you click the button, the invite button, you can actually be on the call with me and we can interact. So this is a little strange because I'm talking to myself, but not really because Alexander's here with me. I can see him in the questions on the side here. Can you hear me okay, Alexander, or is it strange? Is there feedback? Okay. Let's see. Peggy, are you on the call? No, I definitely can't hear you. Let's see. Okay. Um, this is a little frustrating actually. Here we go. I put a link in. See if you can click on that link, Alexander, and join in on the call. I don't know if it'll take you in. It just looks like there's one person on here. So weird. Okay, Alexander, are you still there? Hmm. Okay, I just sent the invite to Peggy again. Did you get the link that I sent you? And hopefully you can just join in on the call. It's kind of strange. But anyway, so this is to flip or not to flip. It's almost 6:45, and I wanted to be mindful of everybody's time. And I'm going to talk about a flip deal that actually went kind of south. Okay, let's see. I'm going to resend you the link, Alexander. It's in the chat window. I sent it twice, so I'm not sure. Like, I'm going to try to figure this out again. But, all right. Okay, so Peggy's here. This is so strange that you guys can't be on the call with me. So, um, should we switch to just a regular Google Hangout? Maybe I just call you guys. Let's try that. Okay. So, do you guys want to meet up on the other Google Hangout, or should we just go ahead with this? So put it in the box on the side. Uh-oh. Okay, I'm just gonna go ahead and do it, and we'll figure this out for next time. I'm not sure why, but go ahead and post your questions on the side here, and I can see them. So I'll just go through the presentation. This is really strange. All right, so I guess chat me up in the other box if you want. Okay, so can you guys see my screen? Oh, I guess I'm going to screen share. All right. So can you guys see this? I think the link will allow you to talk. So if you click on that link that I sent over, hopefully you guys can just join in on the call. I don't know why it didn't work out. In the invitation, it should have been, you should have just been able to click the link in the invitation and it would have sent you in. It would have sent you in. Sorry, I know this is really frustrating, guys. Okay, so I know you can't talk, but let's just go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and do the presentation and then just send me your questions on the little chat bar on the right. It should have, you should be able to just add your questions here on the right side. Okay, so this is, I'm going to go over a project that I did, and it's kind of sad because it was a really good deal, and because it was so expensive money-wise as far as borrowing the money, it turned out to be not so great. So I'm just going to run through the numbers here, and then we can have a discussion about it kind of through chat, I guess, and see what you guys have, if you have any questions. Okay, so here we go. Hopefully I can figure this out. I just had it up here. Hold on. There we go. All right. So can you guys see everything? I hope so. So here's the case study. I'll just go over what the situation was. It was a SFR in LA. This is, I'm not going to, talk about the actual, I'm not going to give the actual address, so just to kind of keep people protected. The owners were elderly, they couldn't live there anymore, and they really needed to sell their home to pay off some medical bills. The house was actually in really great condition. They took really good care of it. You could tell they had lived there for a long time, and they just needed to pay their medical bills, so they had to get out. And it was just some updating and electrical. So it was a 4-bedroom, 3-bathroom house, 1,700 square feet, and the lot was about 5,900. So it was a good sized lot. It was built in 1951. The area was really nice. It had sidewalks, the roads were paved, and there was a park close by, so you knew that it was in a good area and had good resale value. So it was a good situation all around. So when we took a look at the comps, these were the best comps, and we saw that the area was going for above 600,000. The highest comp we found was 700 here. And and then I really like to take a look at the square footage because of the price per square foot, because it varies, and you can kind of get a good idea of what your actual ARV would be based on a square footage price per square foot. So this average square foot was $340 per square foot, and I went with the higher ARV because this one was closer to the home, and it was the most recent comp that I could find. So I did a 360 a square foot, and I came out to 640K as a real ARV. And at first we had estimated about 670 just based on just looking at the numbers. But if you're looking at the square footage price per square foot, 640 was closer to it. So, and you can see that these comps were here along the same area on the side of the street. So those were good, decent comps. Now, I'm just looking at the numbers here because they were asking for $550,000. We purchased it at $510,000, and the rehab cost we estimated about $25,000. Now, I don't know where that number came from originally, but if you do about $20 per square foot, you're going to come out to about $40,000. And so I think the rehab costs were closer to 35,000, and so the spread, I'm sorry, I forgot to put the estimated ARV in here, was 670,000 instead of 640. So there was a difference of $30,000 when we looked at the real numbers and what we actually thought it was going to be. So even with a $30,000 difference, the spread was still 95 grand. So even, you know, even though our first numbers were not accurate, these numbers were still okay at 510 purchase with about 35,000 rehab, you know, ARV of 640. It was still a good spread. So with 95,000, you think, well, maybe we could do something with that. So look at what happens when we made some pretty bad choices, just in the numbers, just number-wise. And I guess sometimes people just don't, you know, when you think like 95,000, and maybe the big problem here was that the money was 100% financed. So let's break down the numbers. So the ARV, the actual ARV was 640. We purchased it at 510, and the rehab cost was 35,000, and so our total in was 545,000. Now, for whatever reason, we decided that this was going to be a 100% financed project, which in some cases can work out really well, but in this case, because our ARV was a little lower than expected, we really kicked ourselves in the foot. So the first loan was 65% of ARV, which is, you know, the 640. So it came out to 416,000. And it cost us 2 points and 11.5%. So that already is pretty expensive. That's $8,300 plus the $3,900 a month for 11.5% interest on that loan. So the total cost, and we figured the holding would be about 4 months. The actual rehab only took about 3.5 weeks, and so we're in our, you know, we're about 10 weeks out right now. So it was 24,244 that we figured to be safe 4 months. And then the second loan to cover at 100% was the leftover 129,000, and that was a 10% loan, and that cost $4,300 a month. So we factored in the rehab costs at 35, and we hired a project manager to deal with all of the day-to-day, to hire all the subcontractors, to make sure things were going on time and smooth. And she was actually really worth it because it allowed us to, you know, stay off the project and keep our eye on the numbers. And she actually knew what she was doing. She was very good. So it was worth the $5,000 to have her, but it obviously added to the cost. So that brought it up to 40 grand. And then our realtor costs were 6%, and so, you know, you have to pay between 5 and 6%. I always put in 6 just to cover everything, and that came out to 38,000. That's based on the selling price of 640, and then our closing costs at 2%, and that's pretty average. I mean, every once in a while it goes a little higher, but that's pretty average for closing costs with your escrow fees and all that stuff. So that's another $12,800. So our total cost in was $119,744. That's a pretty hefty rehab, and considering rehab costs, considering we didn't do any additions, it was considered a light rehab. We did the floors, the bathrooms, and all that other stuff. I'm just going to check in with you guys and see if there's any questions. So yeah, so then so that's pretty hefty for just, you know, a regular fix, and it's only 1,700 square feet. It's not a huge house, but it's not tiny either. But we didn't add anything. We didn't tear down any walls. Luckily, all of the windows were brand new. So the total acquisition cost for this, including the rehab, the acquisition plus the rehab, was $629,000 $629,744. So if we look at what our selling would be at 640 minus our cost, we would end up with a whopping $10,000, a little over $10,000. So what are the three factors that really killed this deal? And I think, just looking at the numbers, you might be able to tell right off the bat, like having the second loan, that's a pretty hefty, just financing everything 100%. You're financing everything 100%. Plus, the biggest cost here was the realtor fees. And now, I know it pays sometimes to have a really good realtor, but at the same time, if you have your license or you can just do for sale by owner, and you could pay half of that in the realtor fees, and just maybe be 3% on the buying side or whatnot. But there's ways to get around that realtor fee. I mean, that's a pretty hefty chunk right there. They're actually making a lot more than the flipper in this case. And you can see the loan, the hard money people are making like a pretty good chunk as well. So so that's the second thing. And the third thing was just that our ARV was not necessarily on target. So we had gone in expecting it to be 670, and in reality it's more like 640. So that was a huge chunk. And if we would actually stayed at the 670 mark, this number would have been obviously bigger at about 40,000. So that really made a big difference in making this deal a bad deal. So those are the three big factors: was the realtor costs, the ARV, and the loan, the amount of money for the loan. So this is a great example of how you could really kill it if you are spending too much, or if you're not keeping track of your cost and knowing exactly what it is before you go in. So I can send this to you guys so you guys can really look at the numbers, or if you have any questions on how I actually figured all these numbers out. I try to make it pretty clear, but these are the basic numbers. And of course, you always want to try to put in a little cushion, because anything could go wrong. It might go longer than 4 months. It could be 4 to 6 months. I know some flippers like to say 6 months just to have a really good cushion in there. And then also, what else? So the time frame and the cost of the money is always something we want to look at. So, I know a lot of people like to shop around and see if they can get a better loan, and some people actually go and get bank loans to do this, and they're a little bit harder to find, but because you're not owner-occupied, they're a little harder to find. But there's some people who can actually pull it off, but most of the time it is hard money. Or if you have your own money to put in, that always helps. We would have saved a good chunk of change here if we didn't have to borrow so much money. So there you go. Those are the three things that really killed this deal, and these are all the numbers. And so always check your ARV. Try to find the cheapest money you can find, and sell your own stuff. If you have a realtor that you really like working with, and maybe you can cut a deal with them on volume and see if they'll take lesser of a percentage. But that's really a big chunk of your money right there, is using a realtor to buy and sell all your deals. So I'm gonna check and see if you guys have any questions. If there's anything else you want to talk about. I know this is really kind of weird. Okay, so Peggy's asking, wasn't there a point during the rehab where you realized that you're going over the 35,000? Couldn't you just stop midpoint? Well, yeah, you could stop midpoint, but you really can't just stop in the middle of rehab and say, okay, we're not going to finish the house. Let's figure out where you're going to cut your losses and decide. And actually, I've seen it. I've seen houses on the market that the rehabber ran out of money and they couldn't finish the rehab, so they just sold it as it was, and had somebody, or asked a JV or somebody to come in and finish paying for the construction costs or whatnot. And usually that happens with an addition or some kind of major construction where they're trying to maybe gut the house and redo it, and they just didn't figure out the right rehabs. But in this case, the cost of the rehab wasn't necessarily what killed the deal. What really killed the deal was the cost of the hard money, and that it was 100% financed, the realtor fees, and that the ARV was a little lower, well, much lower than what we were expecting. But the rehab, you know, you really do want to have somebody on your team who is looking out for your money, so that you're not going over the budget on those things, and that they can just take a look at what you're spending every day, how much the labor costs are actually really, really expensive here in California. And so that was one of the things we didn't realize as well was, wow, labor's not as cheap as it was before. And you might be able to get really cheap parts and discounts on your furnishings and your hardware and things like that. But when it comes to actually installation and the labor involved to put it in, some of these guys were just not that cheap. And we shopped around, we got a couple of bids, and they were all much higher than we were expecting. So, those are just some of the things that you have to have a great person who's willing to, do the wheeling and dealing for you, so you can make sure that you're getting the best deal, especially on labor. So that was a really expensive. So that's a good question, Peggy. I don't know if Alexander, are you still on the call? This is so strange. Hopefully next time I can figure this out so you guys can actually be on here with me. Okay, so Alexander, do you have any questions? Are you still there? Peggy, were you able to see the presentation okay, or was it cut off? Alexander, if you're there, if you want to go ahead and chime in too. Okay, so why did we spend so much money on the fix-up? Yeah, that's a good question. Like I said, I think it was the labor costs were higher than expected, and we ended up doing a lot more in the house than we originally thought. So more painting needed to be done, and then luckily the windows were already brand new, but the floors were in decent shape, so we just sanded those and glossed them over. But we didn't do any additions, and we didn't do any, we didn't do anything really fancy. And so the cost really came in with the extra, with having it 100% financed, and so that really upped the entire project cost. But on it was like $35,000, and then we had a $5,000 fee for the project manager, so that was an extra expense that we felt was important because she was able to keep everything on track and on time, and so we finished in 3.5 weeks versus maybe 6 weeks. But like I said, the labor costs were pretty high, a little bit high. So it was like, instead of $9 an hour, most guys were coming in at like $12 an hour, and then some people were 25 on the tile, and so it was just a matter of really getting those numbers closer to what we originally thought. What's been your experience, Alexander? If have you done a rehab? What's been your experience with the rehab costs? And Peggy, I know you just went through a little bit of rehab yourself with the insurance company, but if you guys want to just shoot out your thoughts here, and I can say them out loud. Can you guys see it when I like go through the questions? Reason I don't like flipping is because you're supposed to stop spending money when you reach your max. You're supposed to pay a day rate. Um, t how do you pay a day rate on your flips? I know you're from New York, so it might be a little different there, and I'm sure they do things more efficiently. Yeah, Peggy, I'll definitely send this over to you and Alexander as well, or anybody else, who contacts me. I can go ahead and send you the numbers on this. Alexander, try to use that link to get into the call. Oh, I see. So Peggy, because you had an insurance person come out to your rehab, then it was a little bit different because they could just put all the costs down on their adjustments. So Alexander says, workmen do not give women good prices. I have offended women by saying this before, but it is the truth. They don't want to work for women. I agree. I think I've experienced that myself, when they're dealing with women. And we were a group of women doing this flip, and so that might have contributed to the high prices in labor. So, that definitely has some sway. So that's a good point, actually. I've heard it. I haven't, I've heard it from a lot of other women as well. It's not just my own experience. So Alexander said I spent 119K in under a month. Yeah, that's pretty hefty. Like I said, a lot of the cost, that actually, if we go back, um, the total cost for 119, that includes the 4 months of holding. So that's why that number is so large. So it includes the 24,000. So it was, and the 4,300 for so it's an extra 30 grand in there for just the holding costs. Does that make sense, Alexander? It's still pretty expensive though. It's like even 120,000. So Alexander, you said that the project manager was a waste. What is your take on project managers? I agree, Peggy. We should definitely figure out a better way to do this next time. I think I liked it better on a regular hangout. Peggy, I just sent you another invite. See if that works. Alexander, I sent you one too. And see if you guys can click on the link there and get into the call. Maybe I'll have to do that for next time. Peggy, I see you on there.
Hello.
Yay, you're talking. Okay.
We're talking.
Okay, there you are.
That's weird.
Yeah.
It finally came through on my phone.
Awesome.
Oh my god, that was the weirdest thing.
Okay, cool.
Okay, you spent money like water.
Well, unfortunately, I was just kind of a bystander on this project, and I wasn't really sure.
Peggy, I see you on there.
Peggy, I see you on there.
Hey, you're talking. Okay.
Okay, okay.
Okay, there you are.
Okay, there you are.
That's weird.
That's weird.
It finally came through on my phone.
Awesome. Yeah, that was the weirdest thing. Okay, cool.
Okay. Is that better?
Yeah, I turned off the speakers on my computer.
Oh, okay. All right.
So I need you to clarify one more thing.
Yeah.
You said that the 119,744 included the carrying cost, but you did everything in 1 month. So the carrying cost for 1 month is only
The 1075 and the 3986 here on the first and second loan. So 1075 a month and 3986. So, I mean, this is just 4 months out on the total cost for 4 months out was the 119,744. If we included it on 4 months, but it's not sold yet. That's the thing.
Well, I see. Okay, but after 1 month, because you finished in 3 weeks.
Yeah.
After 1 month had passed, how much money did you guys spend?
So we haven't paid all the realtor fees or all the closing costs because it hasn't closed yet. So that money is not spent yet, but it will be, is what I'm saying. So, the rehab was 35 plus the 5. That's 40 grand on the rehab.
So that's all you spent on the rehab?
Just on the rehab, yeah. See, the actual cost of the rehab was 40 grand.
Okay, so you spent 40 grand, you fixed everything up in 3 weeks.
Uh-huh.
So what happened? I don't understand. What happened between week 3 and week 4?
Nothing. So this is the cost of the entire project at 4 months out. That's where we're calculating the cost for the realtor when they sell it, and then the closing costs with the, with escrow and title and all that stuff.
Did you say you're 2 months into it now?
No, we're about 10 weeks in.
So 2.5 months.
Yeah, 10 weeks in. So
I don't understand. If you finished after 3 weeks, how come you couldn't get it sold between week 3 and week 4?
Right, that's, that was the problem. So what actually, this area, when I was checking it out more on Redfin and looking at other comp things, this area dropped 12% in prices. So, yeah, so the ARV at 670, which we were thinking was closer to what we wanted, that's why, it dropped. It's listed at 670 right now, and it's not, that's probably too high because we haven't gotten any offers on it. But at the time, 3 months ago, when we got this into contract and we entered into everything about 3 months ago, we were thinking, oh, this is, a good ARV at 670, even if at 60 or 650, we would have been okay. But now that we're looking at everything and everything's dropped in that area, and 640 is more like the ARV, and it's priced too high. So nobody's really, there's been a lot of people who looked at it, but there hasn't been any bids. There hasn't been any offers. So now we know that it's not going for that price.
Okay, so have you offered seller financing?
No, that's not something that we've considered, and I don't know anybody who's done that on their flips.
Well, hell, if you're about to lose, you're probably going to lose 10, 20,000.
At this point, it looks like it's.
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of scary in that sense, and I'm glad that none of this is my money. So I've been able to really learn a valuable lesson about the cost of rehabs, and I think a lot of people look at flipping, it's like such a luxurious kind of thing sometimes when they just look at the ARV and the actual spread, but they don't actually figure in real-time costs, especially when the cost of the money was really what I thought was a big downer was, getting.
Well, that's what money costs. I mean, there's nothing wrong with the cost of your money. It wasn't obscene. That's what the money cost. The problem is that there was
100% financing, and that's not really usual for flippers. Usually there's some kind of skin in the game for them. It's like they'll put a couple $100,000 into it themselves.
Well, I mean, it just depends. I mean, it just depends on what you want to do. But with these numbers, the thing about it, I've talked to a few people about flipping and my concerns. First of all, in flipping, you cannot do everything that the house needs. Mm-hmm. You can't because you spend too much money. The second problem I have with flipping, me personally, because I've done this stuff for a long time, mm-hmm. you have to basically overlook stuff that the house needs and get it sold for you to make the profit that you need to make. And second, if you do construction, you need to do it really, really quickly. And oftentimes, when you do construction on old houses, you rip stuff up, you find things that you weren't expecting. You're supposed to cover them over as a flipper.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's not get moral about it, but as a flipper, you're really supposed to cover them over. That's what you're supposed to do, especially if you're reading the market all along. You're supposed to go, hey, I don't have enough money to do this, cover it over, and keep moving. Right. So that's the problem I have with flipping. you got to get the lowest cost. You got to beat the guys up. You got to get the lowest cost possible, which you can do because, you know, people are still out of work. You can get guys to do stuff, but you have to be a hardball about it. And I've had this experience of sending people that we used in New York to women, and they just didn't do good jobs at all. They just do not work very well with women at all. And that's just the reality. So I would say in the future, always hire a male PM.
Mm-hmm.
And if you are a woman, you have to be even doubly hardball about the numbers.
Yeah.
Because you're not getting the best numbers. You know, I don't know about this particular project, but you're not getting the best numbers. Okay, so you spend your 35K.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is you spend your 35K. You were pretty good. You spent 40K 3 weeks out. You have to read the tea leaves. You got to get rid of it. You got to get rid of it. You got to do anything It's the truth. This is.
Well, yeah, exactly.
They don't show you this on TV. They don't show you any of the lizardness that you have to be a lizard. You got to be like, oh shit, I'm feeling some heat. We got to get out of this. Whatever you can do, rent to own, seller financing.
Yeah.
You know, a lady whose money this is, who borrowed all this money, is being very cavalier. The market's not coming back.
No.
Read the papers. They're like all sales of existing homes are down because the prices went up too fast, and nobody wants to pay that because they can't.
Mm-hmm.
The banks have raised interest rates, and now they come out and they go, what are you talking about?
Right.
The other weird thing about this, the only other thing that I want to ask, did you get an appraisal of the property before you closed?
No, there was no appraisal.
Yeah, you gotta get an appraisal because they would have alerted you that there was a problem.
Yeah, yeah.
So the would have been like,
exactly.
this isn't worth what you think it's worth.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's the way you use an appraisal because you're supposed to use the appraisal, to be honest with you, to drive the cost of acquisition down.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well,
that's why you pay the $300 because they're so conservative now.
Yeah.
That you'll see it might have only come in at, I don't know, $450.
Right, right. Well, there also wasn't time, back when we got this property, there was a lot of hype. There was like, oh my gosh, it just fell out of escrow, and we got all these backup offers. There wasn't a ton of time to do the appraisal and, put in a different offer. But we did uncover a $7,000 electrical problem.
Yeah.
That was a whole, because the original estimated rehab was only $25,000. So when everything was said and done, it came out to $35,000. So, that's what I had originally estimated, and she had come in and saying, oh, we could do it for $25,000 because it really wasn't a major fix. Really it was just a lot of updating and a little bit of paint. We didn't even paint the entire thing. But, $7,000 worth of electrical, that could really shoot up your rehab costs that you didn't know.
How much did you pay to paint the place?
I think the painting, I don't remember because we just did the interior and the outside, what are they called? Like the edges, what are those called?
The
eaves? Trims?
No, not the eaves, like the stuff around the windows and, what are those called? The frame.
The framing.
The framing around the window, I forget what that's called. Trim. The trim.
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't, I don't know. Once again, it's not my money, it's the lady's money. Yeah. But I think you have to panic earlier as a flipper.
Right, right. Well, so these were some really valuable lessons, and I think that's why I wanted to pass this on to you guys because, I went into it with, wide open eyes thinking, oh my gosh, this is a really great project because, she's the wholesaler. Usually she just would wholesale it, but it was such a great deal. She's like, well, we could totally do this, and, and here's where it went wrong.
I think the home's value is today.
Right. Yeah. So that's that was the hard part was values dropped in that area by 12%, and so that wasn't something we actually calculated. We were thinking that it would go up, but it actually didn't. So in this particular area, so that was unfortunate. And then another hard thing is that not a lot of homes have been purchased in this area for a long time because people tended to live there for years and years and years. Like these particular people, they were there for over 20 years. And, they kept it in great condition, but obviously needed to be updated. So the whole neighborhood is similar in that sense where you could tell that, people lived there for a long time and obviously cared about their properties, but because a lot of the neighbors had, 100% equity. They were free and clear houses all around. You could tell that they lived there for a long time. So that was a factor when doing the comps. There wasn't a lot of comps, and then that were close enough to the area, and so lots of different factors. But great.
What do you think it's going to sell at? What is the price that will make the house move?
If we can get it in at 650, anywhere between 640 and 650, it would be fine. But like I said, this was at a $10,000 profit. I mean, it's just like all that work and worry for $10,000 over a few months. I don't know. I mean, not really worth it. I mean, because even out of that, because she's had so many people helping her out, that profit's not necessarily all hers either. So, it's kind of like lots of cooks in the kitchen and that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, I guess she can do rent to own because she needs a conventional to take out all this hard money. Yeah.
So, I think the hard money was only a 6 month period. She only, she drew up for 4 months just in case. But, if it takes 6 months, then I don't know what we're gonna, that'll eat up 100% of our profit. And then some.
More expensive lesson.
Yes, exactly. So, but to be honest, I know the play for her was with the second loan position was Chinese investor, and so she was really looking to court that investor, and have him get a good return on his money, so she could use that money for other projects. And so she really wasn't keen on how much money she was making. It was really the play was to court the investor. And I don't know if that's necessarily the best,
No, I don't know.
Maybe that's not necessarily the best strategy, but I know that was what, a big part of what she was thinking going in.
Well.
So that's, unfortunately, it was a great house. It would have been really a quick flip if, if there wasn't all this other stuff kind of going on. But, yeah, so I really wanted to share that with everybody because I know it was a great deal. Like a lot of other investors were interested in it. That's why she decided, oh, well, let's go ahead and flip it ourselves because obviously it's a good deal. There's other people who are like, wanting to get in on it. But here we are. But so do you guys have any other questions or?
So what's going to happen now? I mean.
Well, right now it's just, we're looking to sell it, to sell it as quick as possible and see what we can get for it. So that's really all that is. And I think, I'm not sure if we're going to actually lower the price or if I haven't followed up with her in a couple of days to see if there's been any offers, but it's still active on the market, so not a lot of movement.
That's too bad.
Yeah, so dun dun dun. I know it's like not a very uplifting webinar, but you know what? I was really excited to share this just because I know, I'm glad that I didn't have my own skin in it per se, but it's kind of like one of those things where, like, oh, if I would have known this going in, for future reference, wow, I can really crunch these numbers and know where I'm going with it instead of just kind of worrying and leaving it up to somebody else. So, that was my main reason for wanting to share it with you, because a lot of people don't think about all the holding costs, the cost of the money, the realtor costs. I mean, that kind of blew me away. I didn't realize how expensive realtors could actually be.
Well, you didn't negotiate 6%. You guys.
Well, that's it. 3% each, and that's pretty standard between 5 and 6%.
Standard. I mean, yeah, it's 5 or 6% is what I hear about.
Yeah, but every percentage that you save is more in your pocket. So
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, that's why you play hardball with the numbers. You can find a realtor to do it for 5%. You know.
Right. Well, you could, and that was her other play too, is that she really liked this realtor. He's a pretty aggressive realtor, and he was actually telling us at the beginning, like, oh, 670 is probably not gonna make it. Like it's probably closer to 650. So, in hindsight, if we would have listened to him, it might have been a little bit different. But she, you kind of just go with what you got. And he was actually a very good realtor, but right now the pressure's on him to sell it and sell it quick. And so he's got to work for that money. And it's so expensive. That was one of my biggest concerns was like, wow, he's making more than anybody can own. So, yeah.
Well, good luck.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. We'll see what happens. So that's
There you are.
my webinar.
Now I see you. At the very end.
Okay. All right. So next week it's marketing for hot deals. We're just going to go through a couple of ideas about marketing and how to get sellers to call you and things like that. So that's what I'm going to be talking about next Wednesday.
All right.
Okay.
And then hopefully I can figure this out. I think if you guys join in on the link that was originally sent to you, then you can actually get in on the call. But I'll do this again. If not, then I can just invite you directly from here and see if that.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, see if that works. Did
Yeah.
it pop up on your screen? And you could just
No. I had to go look for it, and I was just sitting there all alone, hanging out by myself. I'm like, where am I? Why is no one here? And then that link you sent, it was just weird with that whole, question and can't do anything.
Right. So this last link like the last invite, how did that show up for you guys?
It showed up with the pound sign, and then as soon as I swiped my phone, it connected the call. But before, you said you sent it like 3 or 4 times. It only dinged twice, and the other one wasn't a connection to the call.
Right. Okay.
It's kind of weird.
Yeah. So when I sent the last invites over, it just popped up on your screen.
Yeah, it's just.
Yeah, it popped up on the phone, and then I just dragged my finger on it, and then it connected automatically.
Well, it popped up on my chat. I just clicked on it.
Oh, I see. Okay, perfect. All right. So that's interesting. I wonder, but the original link, when you clicked on the original link, it just sent you to the question, the Q&A part?
Yeah, it sent me to the website.
Yeah, but there was nothing there.
Oh, that's strange. Okay.
I don't know. Honestly, I don't even know where I was the first 10 minutes. I was like, where is everyone?
Okay. Well, that's okay. I think I'll just I'll use the invite button next time to invite you guys on live, and then hopefully I can figure this out so that it's smoother for next Wednesday. But hey, this is just one, so we're good. So this one's actually being recorded, and so I'm gonna go ahead and edit it and then post it.
Okay.
You guys can watch it. All right.
All right, well, good luck. Hopefully it'll all work out soon.
Yeah, I think it definitely will, and obviously I've learned a valuable lesson, and a lot of fun going through everything and watching it happen, and being on the sidelines. So that's helpful because I'm not obviously stressed out, as stressed as she is, and so I can, take a step back and look at things a little bit more objectively. But looking at the numbers again, I was like, wow, we could have done things a little bit differently. Hindsight is always 20/20. But yeah, I'm still hopeful it'll work out and make a little bit of money and learn some really valuable lessons. So that's great. I mean, I wanted to make sure I pass that along to you guys and have a good conversation about it.
Great.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay, so I will see you guys next Wednesday. You know, feel free to contact me or call me, and hope you guys have a good rest of the week. Happy Memorial Day.
All right. Thank
Fine. Talk to you later.
All right.
you. You too.
Bye.
Bye-bye.